What's up, guys? Volcanics back again. We're got an updated profile for you. It's not another new one. We're just gonna give you guys an update to the Dinomorphia deck profile that I did last year. Best performing video that we had. Hopefully you guys like this one too. This one's a lot more refined, and I think Dinomorphia has a pretty good place in the meta. It has a really good matchup against Kashtira because they have high attack points, so it's easy to floodgate them under your Rexstrom. And they don't have a lot of non-activating removal. So it's really good in that aspect. It kind of sucks getting your zones locked, but we do play a couple cards that will help stop that. So anyways, we'll get on with it. First off, 3 copies of Theresia. Now, Theresia is the best starter of the deck, the best monster starter, I guess. On summon, it can set a Dinomorphia trap from your deck. It's not ashable. They're going to have to burn an Imperm if they want to stop that. Diplos is ashable, however. We only play 2 of him. So on summon, it can dump a Dinomorphia trap to the grave. Good for setting up plays for your Kentrigina. Both of these guys flow into each other. They can actually summon a level 4 lower Dinomorphia with a different name than itself when these are destroyed by banishing any trap from your grave, even a non-archetype trap. We then play the 1 Misk. If it's at 1, we play 1. If it's at 2, we play 2. And if it's at 3, we play 3. Not much explanation there. Makes your dinos unaffected during the main phase. On to 3 Ash Blossom. We do play 3 Ash. It's not really only to stop your opponent. It actually helps you push for game with the card I'll show you guys here in a little bit. Best tuner in the game, I'll leave it at that. We got 3 copies of Big Giant Rock from Outer Space. This is a lot of the reason you try to counter Kashtira. You know, it's nice to have. And also, if you sequence your plays right, you can actually go ahead and Nibiru your own board and then still have monsters afterwards by using the Revival Trap in the correct sequence. We play the 1 card of Demise as our first spell, and it's also our last spell. You activate it, you draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. At the end of the turn, you discard your entire hand. You cannot special summon that turn. Just helps you get card advantage, and you're going to need that in this deck, especially in this format. We play 3 Imperms. So the Imperms you only really want to use on Shangri-Ira in the Kashtira matchup. You don't want to try to stop their plays. Let them do their thing. It's not going to hurt you that much. You just don't want them to lock a bunch of back row. So you can Imperm that so it stops it from locking zones during their turn. Then we got 3 copies of Dinomorphia Frenzy. Best trap in the deck. Best fusion trap, rather. It uses 1 material from the deck, 1 material from the extra deck. So that's why we play the Diplos, is because this card is out now, so you need a lot less gas of named monsters in the main deck to actually get your plays going. We are down to 2 copies of Domain. Just like I said, we play the 5 total Dinomorphias in the deck, so this would rip out 2 materials from the deck when you fuse. Kind of sucks. It makes you run out of gas really quickly. So I'm down to 2 of these. And also, if you do this, instead of Frenzy to start your combo, your board is only Rexstrom, but with the Frenzy, you will have the Rexstrom and the Kentrigina and probably some follow-up. Then we're on to Alert. All the profiles I see online are playing 1 Alert. I think that's completely incorrect. Alert at 2, it'll come up both times. You'll usually use the effect at least twice per duel minimum. Helps you set up going for game with the Xyz monster that I'll show you here in a little bit. And also keeping it at 2 allows you to trap trick this. Then we are on to 2 Dinomorphia Sonic. It's almost like a judgment. It's just a quick effect, not a quick effect. A counter trap speed allows you to negate and destroy a spell or trap, and also destroy a Dinomorphia you control. So pretty good card there. And also, might as well mention this now, the counter traps Dinomorphia. We're about to get a new one, which is basically Solemn Strike. And all the counter traps in Archetype have an effect where they can banish themselves from grave when you would take damage, and you do not take damage from that battle. And all of the normal traps in the Archetype actually banish themselves if your opponent activates a card effect to make you immune to effect damage for the entirety of the turn. The last Dinomorphia card we play is 1 Brute. I see people running 2. I think 1 is fine. It's just spot removal, non-targeting destruction of a card on the field, or a card your opponent controls, as well as a Dinomorphia you control. Then we play the 2 copies of Trap Trick. Trap Trick, it lets you get to any of your normal traps. It helps you get to your frenzies or your domains, your alerts, anything that you need, and also have the next cards in the lineup are going to be really good trap trick targets. Destructive Druma Karma Cannon. You can actually play Book of Eclipse in this place. I think it's still better to play this, especially since we're in traps and we play these trap tricks. So Destructive Druma Karma Cannon flips every monster on the field face down, And if a player has a face-up monster after this card resolves, or after the flip effect of this card resolves, then they must send that card to the grave. So that is actually by game mechanics. So even if they have a towers-like monster like the Agnister Link 6, um, or even if they try to protect it by using like a Forbidden Lance on their Arise Heart to protect it from getting flipped face down, you can actually use this. It will still send them to the grave, but it will be your opponent's doing. In the same vein, we have two copies of Ferret Flames. Ferret Flames is almost the same way. It makes your opponent shuffle monsters from their field into their deck until they control less attack points on board than you do life points. It's also by game mechanic, so even if things are unaffected, it still stops that. Crazy card, especially when you're going to be sitting at 13 life points sometimes. Then we have the 2 Dirac Impact. This is just a board wipe. If you control a Dino monster with 2,500 or more attack, you can actually destroy every card in the field. I lost a game a couple weeks back at locals against Runic because I actually forgot about ruling where the Runic fairy, the one that banishes itself to prevent destruction, it actually can't prevent destruction if it's one of the cards being destroyed. So if you were to put like a Dark Hole or something, and they try to bring it in and they try to protect all their monsters, that doesn't work. It only works if that card on resolution would not be one of the destroyed cards. Then we got 2 Solemn Strike. This is, I don't know if we'll keep this in once we get the support in Cyberstorm Access, just because the other one's a lot better. It protects you from battle damage for like the entire turn. But Solemn Strike is really good, especially if you get this as your 3rd activation. It just helps you get lower quicker. If you wait too long to use it, though, it is a dead card and you will not have the life points to use it. Then we are on 1 Wall of Revealing Light. So this is actually really good against Kashtira. I might be messing with the ratios, but if you shotgun this, depending on your hand and how you do the math to figure it out, you can shotgun this at 7, and then they won't even be able to attack to declare their Fenrir effect to wipe this out, so they're going to have to waste their Arise Heart. But if you have ways to stop the Arise Heart, then it's really not a problem. Really good card, keeps them from attacking. You can pay 7, you can pay 4. Sometimes I pay 4. It just keeps you from dying a lot of times. And then we have 3 copies of this card, which I don't know why people are not playing it, but it's 3 copies of Chain Hole. So Chain Hole is exceptional. Basically, if your opponent activates a monster effect in response to you activating a card or effect, then you can negate that monster's effect, and then they have to banish 1 card with the same original name from their hand or from their deck. And if they don't, they have to banish 1 card from their hand. At first read, a lot of people assume, for instance, if you activate Frenzy and they activate Ash Blossom, you activate Chain Hole, they might read this card and say, okay, all I have to do is banish this Ash Blossom from my main deck, and now my Ash Blossom will resolve. That's not how it works. It stops it, and you also have to banish. So if they banish the Ash from their hand or deck, that first Ash activated will be negated by Chain Hole, and your effect will resolve. This is actually really especially good against on-board presences. Like if they set up a Baron, you can use this. If they try to negate your Frenzy with Baron, you activate this. They have to banish a Baron from their main deck or from their hand. And since you don't have synchro monsters in your main deck or your hand, they just have to banish a random card from their hand. And also, this card is not once per turn. So there's actually been times where I have 2 of these set, plus a Frenzy, and I Frenzy, they Ash, I do Chain Hole on the Ash, they Baron the Chain Hole, and I Chain Hole the Baron. So then they rip 2 cards from their hand, banished at random, plus getting both of those effects fizzled out. On to the extra deck, we play 3 copies of Kentragina. It's at 4k attack basic. Under skill drain, it's really tough. That's what people used to do. But it loses attack equal to your life points, so it's never going to be at 4k, but a lot of times it's going to be at 3,993. Then we have the Rexstrom, 3 copies of Rexstrom. Real quick, I might as well mention the Kentragina can banish a Dinomorphia trap from the grave and copy its effect. It has to be a normal trap, though. It can't be the counter trap. So the Rexstrom has 2 effects. It has a Floodgate effect where your opponent can't activate effects of monsters they control if their attack is higher than your life points, which is often like 7 life points, so it really doesn't. It's really easy to Floodgate lock out your opponent, and it's hard for them to out, especially with having Kashtira in the meta currently, which is a bunch of big, strong monsters. It also has a quick effect that can be activated at any phase, and also during the damage step, I believe, where you pay half your life points as cost, and then all of your opponent's monsters on field become attack equal to your life points. So this is really good because when you pay that life points down for cost, they are going to have a monster weaker than your life points in order to actually respond and to negate that. Then we played the 2 Stealth Bergia. Stealth Bergia only comes up as fuel for your Dinomorphia Frenzy, just to send for free to fuse into your other dinos. But if you need to summon it, you can. It only has the effect, has an effect to burn. You're not going to burn your opponent for time since you're constantly killing yourself over and over again in this deck. So the only effect that's relevant is that you don't have to pay life points to activate trap cards. So it can actually turn on your Solemn Strikes if you get those too late. We play 1 Evilzord Dolka, 1 Evilzord Logia. So Dolka is not once per turn. Detach a material from it to negate a monster effect. Logia is detached to negate a summon or a spell or trap activation. And they both require 2 level 4 dinosaurs, and they are dragons. So if they try to floodgate you out of having different types of monsters, just remember you can actually have these dragons on board too. Then I play the 1 Baguska, the Terribly Tired Taper. He's a staple in a lot of decks. He's kind of a backup plan if you can't really do anything else. It's nice to get a Baguska on board and try to buy yourself some time. One of the 2 game enders is number 39 Utopia, but it's not just him. It is number S39 Utopia Prime. So like I mentioned earlier with Alert, you can revive Alert you can use Alert to revive 2 level 4s during the end phase of your opponent's turn, overlay them into Utopia, drop Utopia Prime on top, and when it activates its effect, the cost is to detach 3 materials, which is going to be the Utopia plus the 2 materials used for it, as well as paying life points until you have 10 left. At this point, they can't respond if you have Rexstrom, because they don't have any monsters probably with less than 10 attack points, and it will blow up every special summon monster your opponent controls, and burn them for 300 for each. This is exceptional for going for game. We do play 1 Link monster. We play the Dark Charmer. This is really just a flex spot. It never comes up. I don't remember the last time I summoned it, but it's there as an option. If you play this deck constantly, you might summon this guy once a month. Best card in the extra deck, in my opinion, is Psychic End Punisher. So it was just added to Master Duel. So if you guys are coming here from Master Duel wanting to pick up a deck to play this Psychic End Punisher, this beautiful guy, this is the deck for it. It is better than Punk for this deck. So this is unaffected by your opponent's activated card effects while you have less life points in them. And in this deck, if the duel has started, you have less life points than your opponent constantly. The entire time it's going to be unaffected. They can't really out this. It's kind of like a tower. They're going to need Ferret Flames. They're going to need Destructive Room of Karma Cannon to get rid of this. A lot of people don't play those cards. And it also has an effect where you can pay 1,000 life points to target 1 card on your opponent's field and 1 monster you control to banish them both. But because it costs 1,000 life points to activate, you probably will not be activating it because you can't afford to. Its other effect is that it can gain at the beginning of the battle phase attack equal to the difference in you and your opponent's life points. So you will constantly gain like 7,000 at least every time you activate this effect. And it is a permanent effect, and it does activate during either battle phase. So I've had times where I'll just sit there and wait on this, waiting for my opponent to possibly try to draw the out, and then I'll just swing for 35,000 per game because I feel like it. Really good card, and honestly, this deck is pretty cheap too. I think it's pretty good for the price tag and everything else like that. It's just overall powerful in the current meta. As long as you don't get your zone locked, as long as you have an answer for that, you can play things like Book of Eclipse to even clear stuff like that too. But anyways, yeah. Thanks for watching. Volcanics out.